So, what truly drives a brilliant mind, someone with potential, to commit a really heinous
It's
act?
the central question, isn't it?
Yeah, is it just crushing poverty?
Mm.
Or is it something deeper, like a radical, almost philosophical conviction?
Or maybe even the city itself, the
Mm.
feeling of being suffocated by this indifferent place.
Exactly. Today on the Deep Dive, we're really plunging into the opening chapters of Fyodor Dostoevsky's huge work, Crime and Punishment.
Monumental, really.
It is, and this story, it doesn't just show you a crime, it actually, peels back the layers of the human psyche, raw, often terrifying layers.
Like nothing else, really. It forces you to confront some deep assumptions about morality, about justice.
Definitely.
So we're going on this, the harrowing journey with Rodion Raskolnikov. He's a former student grappling with these extreme theories he's
I
developed.
mean, just the brutal reality of 19th century St. Petersburg, it's
Yeah,
inescapable.
Absolutely. And then the immediate terrifying fallout from his design, as he calls it. Our insights for this deep dive, they come straight from the source material you've provided, these raw, really potent excerpts from Crime and Punishment.
And our mission today is to pull out the most important nuggets, the key insights from this text.
Right, to help you understand the complex forces at play in Raskolnikov's world. And, maybe even more importantly, what's going on inside his own troubled mind.
Get ready for some surprising facts, maybe, and definitely some profound psychological observations.
Observations that still feel incredibly relevant today, you know? They echo through our own modern struggles.
Okay, so let's unpack this, but maybe we start not with Raskolnikov himself, but with the person behind him, Dostoevsky.
Good place to start. His shadow looms large.
He really does. People often say art imitates life, and with Dostoevsky, his own profound suffering, it just casts this enormous, almost tangible shadow over Crime and Punishment.
We can feel it.
We see in the source material he endured a mock execution. I mean, can you imagine? A truly horrific experience.
Facing death, only to have it snatched away at the last second. Unthinkable torture.
And then years of penal servitude in Siberia. In the company of common criminals, the text says. This wasn't just an idea for him, was it?
Oh, not at all. This was his lived reality, his own personal furnace.
You've really hit on something crucial there.
Yeah, the source explicitly states that the intense suffering of this whole ordeal left an indelible stamp on Dostoevsky's mind.
It's not just some interesting biographical fact.
No. It's the very forge where his later works, especially Crime and Punishment, were hammered out. The text says he constantly recurs to the subject in his writing.
Detailing the awful agony of the condemned man.
Right, and completely condemning the cruelty of inflicting such torture. Think about it. He walked to the scaffold, faced oblivion, and then spent years among society's most rejected people.
Witnessing psychological breakdowns firsthand.
Exactly. The material even gives us that stark, chilling example.
A prisoner.
Named Grigoriev.
Oh, yeah.
Who went mad as soon as he was untied and never regained his sanity. Just snapped.
Horrifying.
That kind of real-life trauma, confronting your own mortality, experiencing that ultimate betrayal of hope, then living where sanity is so fragile it absolutely informed the psychological realism.
That visceral quality.
Yes. And the intense, almost unbearable suffering we see reflected in Raskolnikov's own mental fragility. That's why the novel feels so authentic, so raw. It's steeped in Dostoevsky's own lived, harrowing experience.
I find that link, that direct line between Dostoevsky's own pain and Raskolnikov's anguish, just incredibly compelling. It really deepens the whole work, doesn't it?
It adds layers upon layers.
When an artist's personal torment, their deepest pains, can forge something so powerful, so enduring, it gives the work this authentic, almost haunting core.
You connect differently.
Yeah, we connect with Raskolnikov's spiraling mental state on a much deeper level because we know, sort of implicitly, that the author knew that kind of suffering. It's not just fiction.
It's a testament.
Right, a testament to the human spirit pushed to its absolute limits and the psychological scars left behind. Okay, let's pivot now. From the author's internal world to the external world of the novel, St. Petersburg.
Ah, the city.
This city isn't just a backdrop, is it? It truly feels like a character. Suffocating, squalid, almost malevolent.
Absolutely. It presses down on everyone.
The descriptions in our source material are just so vivid, you can almost feel the oppression. We read about the terrible heat, the airlessness, the bustle and the plaster, scaffolding, bricks and dust all about him, and that special Petersburg stench.
Oh, yes. So familiar to all who are unable to get out of town in summer.
It's definitely not a picturesque travel postcard. It feels like the city itself is breathing down Raskolnikov's neck.
That's a great way to put it. And what's truly masterful is how Dostoevsky doesn't just describe a miserable city, he, weaponizes it.
Weaponizes it. Interesting.
Yeah, this isn't just setting the scene, it's a critical, active element shaping and worsening Raskolnikov's entire internal state.
How?
Well, the insufferable stench from the pothouses, the constant presence of drunken men whom he met continually, even on a working day at stresses. All this completed the revolting misery of the picture.
Okay.
And this revolting misery, it isn't something Raskolnikov just observes passively. It worked painfully upon the young man's already overwrought nerves.
So it's actively grinding him down.
Precisely. The city becomes a kind of pressure cooker. It intensifies his anxiety, his isolation, and it relentlessly pushes him further toward his extreme design.
Wow.
The pervasive smell of alcohol, the visible decay, the scaffolding bricks and dust, that feeling of being trapped, unable to get out of town in summer.
Those sensory details.
They're constant, oppressive reminders of societal decay, personal degradation. They aren't just passive descriptions. They are active agents of torment, pressing down on Raskolnikov, eroding his sanity.
Maybe even whispering those terrible ideas into his ear.
You could almost read it that way, yeah. It's part of the poison in the air.
So it's definitely more than just an unpleasant place to live. It's like an active antagonist.
Right. Every sight, every smell, every drunkard he passes chips away at his already fragile state.
And this relentless external oppression then finds its direct echo, its mirror image, in Raskolnikov's own dire personal circumstances.
Exactly. Fueling those desperate, terrifying thoughts he's wrestling with.
Which leads us right to his own abject poverty and how those seeds of his design really start to sprout, taking root in that soil of despair.
The connection is undeniable.
It's one thing to talk about the general misery of a city, but then we zoom right in on Raskolnikov's personal space, and it's equally, maybe even more grim.
That room.
The source describes his little yellow room that was like a cupboard or a box. Just that phrase alone, it gives you such a powerful sense of claustrophobia, of despair, doesn't it?
Total confinement.
His ragged elbows, the stained and sticky table, it speaks volumes about his material deprivation. He's not just poor, he's living in extreme squalor.
A level of confinement that has to impact his psyche.
And he's haunted by this unnamed it, constantly questioning, if I am so scared now, what would it be if it somehow came to pass that I were really going to do it? That it, the terrifying growing idea of murder, it hangs over him. And the physical confinement of his room, it directly mirrors his psychological entrapment. That little yellow room, like a cupboard or a box.
It's a literal representation of feeling boxed in.
Exactly. Boxed in by his circumstances, boxed in by his own destructive thoughts, his overwrought nerves, that pervasive fear. It's all intrinsically, inextricably linked to his desperate financial situation and this monstrous idea festering in his mind.
It's a feedback loop.
Absolutely. And what's even more chilling, maybe, is that detail about the German clerk in the civil service moving out.
The one who lived below the pawnbroker.
Right. Leaving the fourth floor untenanted except by the old woman. Now, to Raskolnikov's twisted, feverish logic, this isn't just a coincidence.
He sees it as an opportunity. It's presented almost like a perceived opportunity, maybe even an omen, something that reinforces his grim resolve. It's as if fate itself is clearing the path, making his design seem not just possible, but maybe even destined.
Wow, that's dark.
This sense of being cornered, both physically in that tiny room and mentally by his poverty and ideas, it's crucial to understanding his desperate rationale.
And we get such a concrete, almost sickeningly mundane example of his desperation when he goes to the pawnbroker.
Alienation Ivanovna.
He goes to pawn his watch, and this old woman, she offers him only a ruble and 15 kopecks. A pittance.
Practically nothing.
But it's her cold, almost bureaucratic calculation that really drives the point home, right?
Yeah.
It just lays bare her exploitative nature.
Oh, that calculation is brutal.
15 kopecks from a ruble and a half for the month in advance. But for the 2 rubles I lent you before, you owe me now 20 kopecks on the same reckoning in advance. That makes 35 kopecks altogether, so I must give you a ruble and 15 kopecks for the watch.
It's so precise, so dehumanizing. Strips him of dignity while nickel and diming him.
It really reinforces his simmering resentment. You almost wonder if that precise calculation, that coldness, was as much a trigger for his resentment as the tiny sum itself.
That's a really interesting point. It's not just the lack of money.
No, it's the dehumanizing effect of such extreme poverty, especially when coupled with a keen but tormented intellect like Raskolnikov's.
Yeah, it can twist perceptions, lead to contemplating radical, even violent acts.
You see how it's all building? The external suffocating city, his internal claustrophobic poverty, it's all funneling him towards this terrible act.
And as Raskolnikov grapples with his own crushing reality, Dostoevsky widens the lens, introducing us to others caught in St. Petersburg's cruel web.
Showing the wider impact of this societal decay.
Exactly. And one of the most memorable, truly tragic figures is Marmeladov. His descent into alcoholism is just heart-wrenching.
He's described as a titular counselor, right? But his exterior would not command respect.
Yet Raskolnikov, quite shrewdly, identifies him as a man of education and not accustomed to drinking.
So, right away, we know there's more to him. A hidden past, some lost dignity.
Precisely. He confesses his alcoholism, calls himself a pig, but then immediately, almost in the same breath, he idealizes his wife, Katerina Ivanovna.
Calling her a lady of education and an officer's daughter. A woman of a noble heart full of sentiments refined by education.
It's such a contradiction. A man riddled with them. He destroys what he seems to love and revere.
It's fascinating, and Marmeladov's confession itself, it's so eloquent, so self-lacerating.
A masterful depiction of a man utterly trapped by addiction, by his past, by societal expectations he just can't meet anymore.
And that paradoxical respect for Katerina Ivanovna, even though he's the direct cause of her suffering.
It reveals this incredibly complex, almost tragic, internal landscape of a ruined man. He desperately seeks, he says, at least one place where a man can feel worthy.
You see that flicker of his former self?
Underneath all the self-loathing and drunken despair. In Katerina Ivanovna herself, despite the abject poverty, she's fiercely proud.
The source says she scrubs the floors herself and has nothing but black bread to eat, but won't allow herself to be treated with disrespect.
She clings desperately to the remnants of her past, like the certificate of merit from her fancy school.
And the memory of dancing, the shawl dance before the governor, receiving a gold medal.
These aren't just random details. They are profoundly poignant symbols of lost dignity, of life unlived, a desperate attempt to hold on to a respectable past that's been brutally stripped away.
And her first husband's ruin by cards, his abuse. It just shows this vicious cycle of misery.
A generational cycle that she's now heartbreakingly repeating with Marmeladov.
It's such a powerful contrast, isn't it? The past glory of the shawl dance and the gold medal set against her scrubbing floors and eating black bread.
Makes her current plight even more tragic, more infuriating in a way.
And this downward spiral of Marmeladov's personal failure, it inevitably leads to the ultimate heartbreaking sacrifice of his daughter, Sonia.
A character who truly embodies selfless suffering.
It's almost like Dostoevsky is painting this picture of how individual failures ripple outwards, destroying entire families.
The collateral damage is immense.
So we move from Marmeladov's eloquent self-destruction to the tragic fate of Sonia. The source says she had no education.
Their attempt stopped at Cyrus of Persia.
Which, for anyone wondering, was likely a very basic classical history text or primer. It suggests her formal schooling was cut off tragically short.
Before she could gain any real depth.
Yet, despite that and the sheer brutality of her life, she shows this remarkable intellectual curiosity, reading books of romantic tendency and even
Lewis's Physiology, a scientific text.
Right. But because of their extreme suffocating poverty, Sonia is forced into prostitution, coming home mostly after dark to support the family, comfort Katerina Ivanovna.
It's an unspeakable situation.
Yeah. She lodges in this tiny, partitioned-off room with the Kapernaumofs, described as very poor people and all with cleft palates.
Just layers of hardship. Sonia, in many ways, she embodies profound innocence and selfless suffering within this deeply degraded world.
Her reading choices are really telling, aren't they? Offering insight into her character.
Definitely. Moving from romantic tendency, maybe escapist novels, to a scientific text like Lewis's Physiology, it suggests an active searching mind.
A spirit yearning for meaning beyond her horrific circumstances.
Exactly. A mind that refuses to be confined by life's brutal realities, seeking knowledge, maybe even a kind of spiritual transcendence.
And the Kapernaumov family, with their shared deformity and poverty.
It just emphasizes the pervasive hardship, the marginalization that's the daily reality for so many in this city. Sonia's sacrifice isn't portrayed as her moral failing.
No, it's shown as a direct, heartbreaking consequence of her family's absolute destitution.
Highlighting the impossible moral compromises forced upon the most vulnerable. She's a pure soul forced into an impure life, yet somehow she keeps her inner light.
And Marmeladov's description of her situation is just gut-wrenching, his desperate question.
Do you suppose that a respectable poor girl can earn much by honest work? Not 15 farthings a day can she earn.
It lays bare the impossible, soul-crushing choices they face. Then he launches into this almost hallucinatory vision
Of divine judgment and forgiveness. For ye drunkards, ye weak ones, ye children of shame.
specifically mentioning my Sonia.
And proclaiming, for thou hast loved much. It's a moment of profound spiritual insight, isn't it? A flash of grace from a man seemingly lost.
Recognizing the extraordinary virtue in his daughter's sacrifice.
It really makes you explore this profound idea of love and compassion existing even in the most degraded circumstances, and how suffering can sometimes lead to a unique spiritual clarity.
Or for Sonia, a unique path to redemption. It's such a powerful contrast to the cynicism and intellectualism brewing in Raskolnikov.
Absolutely, worlds apart.
Speaking of Raskolnikov, while all this is unfolding, he gets that letter from his mother, Pulcheria Alexandrovna,
Ah, the letter. A crucial turning point.
detailing their supposed good fortune. But this letter, while sounding like good news, is just fraught with anxiety and revelations.
It brings his sister Dunya's situation into sharp focus.
Right, her recent severe harassment from Mr. Svidrigailov, who made a shameful proposal to her, initially concealed by his rudeness and contempt.
Until Marfa Petrovna, his wife, exposed him.
Thankfully, yeah. Publicly reading a letter, restoring Dunya's reputation, and then the good fortune.
Dunya accepts a proposal from Pyotr Petrovich Luzhin, a counselor.
A match actively encouraged by Marfa Petrovna, and the mother mentions her own ongoing financial struggles, borrowing against her meager 120 rubles a year pension.
So this letter, meant to reassure him, instead just heaps more pressure, more moral compromise onto Raskolnikov.
It really does, doesn't it?
This letter is, without a doubt, a pivotal moment. It reveals the deep love, yes, but also the desperate sacrifices his family's making, especially the women.
Dunya's plight highlights the extreme vulnerability of women in their class, their limited options.
Painfully limited options for security, for survival. Marfa Petrovna's public reading of the letter, that's a dramatic, crucial act of social vindication. Vital for Dunya's reputation in a society where accusations could utterly ruin a woman.
Leave her with no prospects at all.
Exactly. However, Raskolnikov's immediate reaction, that bitter, wrathful, and malignant smile when he finishes reading.
It shows his profound disgust with the whole arrangement.
He views Luzhin's supposed generosity not as kindness, not as a genuine match, but as a calculated insult. A cynical form of entrapment for his beloved sister.
He sees her being sacrificed.
He cynically envisions Dunya, whom he thinks of as this Schiller-esque noble heart, foolishly hoping for the best, being sacrificed on the altar of financial security, selling herself for the family.
A kind of moral prostitution.
Exactly. Echoing, in a twisted way, Sonia's own sacrifice.
And his reaction is so visceral, so telling. The source says his face was wet with tears while reading.
But then, once he finished, his face was pale and distorted, and a bitter, wrathful, and malignant smile was on his lips.
He sinks into this internal monologue, dwelling on his mother's 120 rubles of pension, his cynical assessment of Luzhin.
Imagining him with an Anna in his buttonhole at the wedding, the Order of St. Anna, a status symbol flaunting his position.
It's clear that this perceived sacrifice of Dunya, this profound personal and familial pressure, combined with that grim urban backdrop.
It serves to solidify Raskolnikov's grim resolve to carry out his terrible design.
It pushes him over the edge, from just thinking about it to this terrifying, almost inevitable determination.
He feels trapped, and this proposed marriage is just another chain tightening around him, around his pride.
Now we get to the chilling core of Raskolnikov's design, his intellectual justification for the unjustifiable.
The theory.
Before the act, he constructs this elaborate theory of the extraordinary man. He concludes that almost all crimes are so badly concealed and so easily detected, not because of external factors,
but because of a failure of will and reasoning power in the criminal themselves.
He thinks this eclipse of reason attacks like a disease, especially around the time of the crime.
But here's the crucial part, the kicker.
He explicitly exempts himself. He concludes his design was not a crime and that his reason and will would remain unimpaired.
He's been pondering these ideas for long before Indeed. It's a chillingly arrogant self-delusion, isn't it? This belief in his own exceptionalism.
It's more than just self-delusion. It's a terrifyingly coherent intellectual framework he builds.
Allowing him to see himself as extraordinary, above the moral laws that bind ordinary people.
And this theory, it wasn't created in a vacuum, was it?
No, it echoes broader 19th century intellectual currents. Ideas of the romantic genius unbound by convention, maybe even a distorted utilitarianism pushed to a horrifying extreme ends, justify the means, no matter how brutal.
Dostoevsky was grappling with these new ideas swirling through Russia.
Ideas often imported from the West, challenging traditional Christian morality. Raskolnikov, in a way, becomes Dostoevsky's tragic laboratory, exploring their darkest, most destructive implications when they're divorced from real human empathy, from moral grounding.
The idea that his actions are not a crime, but a test of his own willpower.
It lets him detach himself, in theory, from the profound moral implications of murder. He thinks he can transcend that eclipse of reason that hits common criminals.
But the text subtly hints at the fragility of this conviction.
Oh yeah, noting that his final decisions were what he came to trust least, and that when the hour struck, it all came to pass quite differently, as it were, accidentally and unexpectedly.
Setting up that profound chasm between his abstract justification and the brutal, messy reality.
Absolutely.
And we see a glimpse of this flawed meticulousness, this intellectual arrogance, even in how he prepares for the pawnbroker visit.
The fake pledge.
Right. A smoothly planed piece of wood with an iron strip for weight, wrapped carefully to divert the attention of the old woman for a time while she tries to untie it.
This is a man who thinks he's thought of everything, down to the minutest details, believes he can control every variable.
But as you said, the execution, the act itself, just exposes this vast, terrifying gap between his intellect and his humanity.
From abstract theory to brutal reality, it all starts to unravel. His carefully constructed world comes crashing down.
So with his theories supposedly locked in place, Raskolnikov moves from thought to the brutal act. But even before the first blow, his composure is just gone.
Utterly shattered.
The text describes him feeling extreme anxiety, asking, "Am I very pale?" Feeling fearfully weak, sudden giddiness.
The physical reaction is immediate.
Alyona Ivanovna, the pawnbroker, is engrossed in the fake pledge, giving him his moment. He brings the blunt side of the axe down on her head.
And then, the unforeseen horror.
Immediately followed by the arrival of Lizaveta Ivanovna, her sister, whom he also murders, a blow to the top of the head. This second unplanned murder wasn't part of his intellectual equation, was it?
Not at all. Pure, terrifying, unplanned chaos. And that's exactly where his theory is brutally exposed as a fallacy.
The depiction of the crime is so visceral.
It immediately underscores the raw terror, the physical deterioration he experiences, directly contradicting his belief that his will and reason would be unimpaired.
The first blow is described almost mechanically.
Delivered while scarcely conscious of himself, like he's detached, watching himself. Yet as soon as he had once brought the axe down, his strengths returned to him.
Chilling, a surge of primal energy.
Almost animalistic. And Dostoevsky doesn't shy away from the grotesque details of the victim either. Makes her terribly real.
Bareheaded, her thin, light hair streaked with gray, thickly smeared with grease, plaited in a rat's tail.
This isn't some abstract insect he's killing. It's a specific, vulnerable old woman.
And that second murder, Lizaveta's, that's where his elaborate theory truly shatters. Transforms his calculated design into something horrifying and absurd.
Precisely. Lizaveta's unexpected arrival and her murder are portrayed as quite unexpected. It plunges him into deeper, more profound fear and loathing.
This unplanned second act shatters any illusion of control.
Completely. Immediately turning his design into hideousness and the absurdity. The source describes an immediate surge of loathing within him.
And the thought of giving himself up.
Yes, not from fear, but from simple horror and loathing of what he had done. That's a crucial distinction.
It's not fear of capture, but the sheer horror of his own actions.
The moral depravity. It marks the complete collapse of his intellectual detachment. The raw, unfilterable reality of his crime hits him. His intellectual fortress just crumbles instantly.
And as soon as the violence is over, it gives way to this desperate, chaotic struggle to escape.
Pulling him further into a psychological abyss, a living hell of his own making.
In the immediate aftermath, his meticulous planning completely dissolves into utter chaos.
Core breakdown.
The source says he's in terrible haste, frantically struggling with keys that would not fit in the locks. not because his hands are shaking.
But because he kept making mistakes. His mind is just a jumble of terror.
He finds that good-sized box under the bed, and in this moment of deranged impulsivity,
Wipes his blood-stained hands on the red brocade.
thinking chillingly, it's red, and on red blood will be less noticeable. Then, with sudden clarity, asks himself, good God, am I going out of my senses?
That flicker of awareness.
Quickly followed by the terrifying sound of voices outside Coke and a student triggering a shock of terror.
Panic sets in.
He rushes to hide the stolen trinkets, 2 little boxes, 4 small leather cases, a chain, something that looked like a decoration, under loose paper in a hole in his room.
But even then, in his escalating paranoia, he feels it's not hidden.
Crying out in despair, my God, what's the matter with me? Is that hidden? Is that the way to hide things? My reason's deserting me, simply.
This period just unequivocally showcases his complete psychological breakdown. His rational plan dissolves into senseless terror and childish and phenomenal heedlessness.
That image of him wiping his hands on the red brocade, it's horrific but almost absurdly aesthetic.
Highlights his deranged state, his desperate, twisted attempt to cover tracks, the sounds of Koch and the student discussing something wrong here outside the locked door.
Plunges him into deep paranoia, confirms his fear that his reason's deserting me.
His aimlessly straying thoughts, his desperate desire to forget himself altogether, to forget everything, and then to wake up and begin life anew.
All undeniable signs of severe mental distress, the beginning of that profound psychological torment.
It's the immediate, visceral price of his intellectual hubris.
And it's during this chaotic period that we get that powerful glimpse into his subconscious. The dream.
Ah, the dream of the mayor. Unforgettable.
He dreams he's a child again, watching the brutal beating of a poor mare by this man, Mikolka, who cries, beat her to death, I'll do for her.
And the crowd shouts, fetch an axe to her. Finish her off.
It's a brutal, almost unbearable image of cruelty that undeniably reflects his own recent violence. A horrifying mirror held up to his soul.
It's his mind grappling with the horror he's committed, isn't it? Vividly illustrating the fragility of the human mind under such extreme pressure.
And how trauma can shatter internal rationalizations, send you spiraling into paranoia, guilt, self-loathing.
The dream culminates in his desperate prayer. Lord, show me my path. I renounce that accursed dream of mine.
He wants to announce the idea, the monstrous part of himself that did it, not just the dream itself.
As Raskolnikov spirals deeper into this psychological abyss, he's unexpectedly pulled back into the world. But not how you'd think.
Right, he gets a summons to the district police station. Not for the murder that's consuming him,
But for trivial IOU, owed to his landlady.
it's a moment of profound, almost dark irony, heightens his internal tension.
And while he's there, in his disoriented, feverish state, he sees that official brutally dressing down a lady in mourning.
Luisia Ivanovna, the Kapernamov's landlady.
And instead of horror or empathy for her humiliation, Raskolnikov feels.
Positive amusement, a longing to laugh and laugh.
It's such a strange, almost perverse reaction. What does they tell us about his mental state?
Well, it's absolutely crucial for understanding his severely disoriented state right after the crime.
That perverse amusement at someone else's public humiliation is deeply troubling.
It suggests a mind profoundly detached from normal empathy.
Maybe a symptom of his growing illness, or a desperate, almost manic attempt to reassert some sense of power or control in a world that's just been turned upside down.
A distorted coping mechanism, finding perverse relief in someone else's suffering.
Possibly. And his calculated lies to Razumihin, his loyal friend, claiming he went out because he was awfully sick of them yesterday, wanted new lodgings.
It's part of this desperate struggle to maintain an illusion of normalcy, to hide the abyss within.
While his inner world is in utter chaos, his anger, irritability, always just under the surface, ready to flare.
And the official's harsh words to Luisia Ivanovna, you shameful hussy, fighting and drinking again. Do you want the house of correction?
It serves as a stark reminder of the city's harsh social realities. And Raskolnikov's twisted reaction highlights how unmoored he's become.
He even admits to the captain he's sick and shattered by poverty to deflect suspicion.
Cleverly using his visible distress, his illness, to his advantage, turning it into a shield.
These uneasy interactions, especially his strange behavior at the police station.
They perfectly set the stage for the real cat-and-mouse game that's about to begin with Porfiry Petrovich.
And what a game that is. A battle of wits way beyond simple police work. Which brings us to this truly fascinating, almost prophetic character, Porfiry Petrovich, head of the investigation department.
Not just a policeman, a master psychologist, a shrewd observer of human nature.
We learn he already knows about Raskolnikov's published article on crime in the periodical review.
Where Raskolnikov lays out his theory. Men divided into ordinary, who must obey the law, and extraordinary,
Who have an inner right to decide in his own conscience to overstep certain obstacles for the practical fulfillment of his idea.
even if it means sacrificing 1, a dozen, 100, or more men.
Chilling stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Porfiry later reveals he knew Raskolnikov went to take a flat at night, asked about the blood.
Admits they purposely spread rumors, even searched your room to the last thread at the first suspicion.
This isn't just an interrogation, is it? It's a profound psychological duel. Played not with evidence, but with Raskolnikov's mind itself.
It is absolutely a psychological duel, and Porfiry is a virtuoso. He's less interested in conventional evidence at this point, more focused on Raskolnikov's temperament, the internal logic of his crime.
A master of subtle psychological warfare. Probing, provoking, not directly accusing.
His playful mind, that often ironical tone, they mask this profoundly shrewd intellect, almost a spiritual insight into the human condition.
The butterfly around a candle metaphor he uses.
Chillingly precise. He'll let Raskolnikov have freedom to circle, flutter around the flame of his guilt, knowing full well he won't escape me. He'll eventually confess.
Porfiry says, freedom will lose its attractions. He'll begin to brood, weave a tangle around himself, worry himself to death.
What's more, he will provide me with a mathematical proof if I only give him long enough interval, and he'll keep circling round me, getting nearer, and then flop. He'll fly straight into my mouth, and I'll swallow him, and that will be very amusing. He, he, he.
It perfectly encapsulates his strategy, his almost cruel patience.
The incident of the bell ringing, which he later mentions, confirms Porfiry's deep understanding of Raskolnikov's morbid psychology, knowing exactly what thoughts would torment a mind like his,
He's less concerned with solving a puzzle.
and more with witnessing the inevitable collapse of Raskolnikov's intellectual pride.
He truly sees into Raskolnikov's soul, doesn't he? Dismantling his intellectual arrogance piece by piece.
He does. Raskolnikov, in his defense, explains his theory, citing Lycurgus, Solon, Muhammad, Napoleon.
Examples of criminals who transgressed the ancient law for a greater purpose. Men who shaped history by daring to step over morality.
But Porfiry, with that knowing wink, dismisses Nikolai, the painter initially suspected.
Saying, no, that's not the work of a Nikolai, my dear Rodion Romanovich.
That's not just Porfiry dismissing a suspect. It's his direct challenge to Raskolnikov, isn't it?
Implying he knows the real killer isn't a simple man, but one with complex intellectual motivations.
Exactly. It's a fascinating interplay between intellect and intuition in investigation. A powerful demonstration of how psychological profiling can be far more potent than just physical evidence, especially with a mind like Raskolnikov's.
So, while Raskolnikov is playing this intense intellectual chess game with Porfiry, the social drama in St. Petersburg keeps unfolding, bringing us to Fyodor Petrovich Luzhin.
Ah, Luzhin, Dunya's fiancé.
Described as stiff and portly, cautious and sour. Right from the start, he tries to establish his superiority, assume control over Dunya and her family.
But his true, despicable character is revealed during that memorial dinner for Marmeladov.
Where he deviously tries to frame Sonia, secretly planting a 10-ruble note in her pocket.
An utterly reprehensible, calculating act of malice, designed to destroy her reputation, humiliate Raskolnikov.
Thankfully, Raskolnikov, despite his own fragile state, fiercely protective of Sonia, exposes Luzhin's scheme.
Even reveals Luzhin's earlier sneaky inquiry about whether Raskolnikov would be there.
Luzhin is just the perfect embodiment of calculated self-interest and petty, vindictive cruelty.
His attempt to discredit Sonia, it's driven by multiple things. His wounded pride after Dunya rejected his earlier condescending terms.
His general contempt for the poor and vulnerable.
And his desire to reassert authority, get revenge on Raskolnikov, who he sees as an obstacle to controlling Dunya. He sees Sonia's poverty not as tragedy, but as a moral failing.
And he's perfectly willing to destroy her reputation, her last shred of dignity, for his own ends.
Raskolnikov's decisive intervention here, despite his own deeply compromised state, is profoundly significant.
It highlights that flicker of inherent loyalty, his moral outrage at blatant injustice.
A stark contrast to his earlier philosophical detachment about his own murder. It shows that beneath the intellectual coldness, the monstrous act, there's still a spark of humanity, a capacity for righteous anger against overt cruelty.
And the confrontation itself is intense, a real turning point for Dunya. Lucian, pale and his lips quivered, is utterly outmatched by Raskolnikov's decisive voice, his tone of conviction, and his stern face.
But what really stands out is Dunya's unwavering integrity, her moral courage.
Despite her family's desperate need for money, she firmly tells Lucian, "If I go out of this door now after such a dismissal, then you may reckon on it, I will never come back."
Her declaration that she must choose between Lucian and her brother. It shows her absolute prioritization of principle over practicality.
A profound act of self-respect, of loyalty. It's a timeless struggle, isn't it, between moral integrity and material gain.
And the powerful, inspiring capacity of individuals to stand up against manipulation, against injustice, no matter the immediate cost. She becomes this beacon of strength in a world full of compromise.
The relentless suffering of St. Petersburg, it takes its toll most tragically on Katerina Ivanovna Marmeladov's widow.
Her story is just devastating.
Driven to the brink by extreme poverty and consumption, she tries to host a funeral lunch for her husband. Despite her meager means, poor quality wine, basic dishes,
A heartbreaking display of trying to maintain dignity amidst total squalor.
followed by that heated, deeply humiliating argument with her landlady, Amalia Ivanovna, over trivial things like names.
Katerina insisting on Amalia Ludvigovna versus Amalia Ivanovna.
But it quickly escalates to insults, culminating in Amalia Ivanovna shouting about the yellow ticket.
A cruel public reference to Sonia's forced profession, utterly stripping them bare.
In a fit of desperation and delusion, Katerina Ivanovna takes her 3 small children, one smaller than the other, to beg in the streets, making them dance and sing.
Appeals for justice from the Tsar, clinging to the delusion her father was a civil colonel, that people looked on him as a governor. It's watching her completely unravel, a proud woman broken.
Katerina Ivanovna's trajectory is one of the most poignant, brutal depictions of a proud individual's descent into madness and ultimately death.
Her clinging to past social status, her delusional beliefs, the Tsar protecting orphans, her father's importance, it illustrates the profound psychological toll of destitution, of unbearable grief.
A desperate attempt to reconstruct a reality where she still matters, where her suffering has a noble cause.
The mention of the yellow ticket is searing. A public reminder of the family's complete degradation, the compromises forced on Sonia. Her argument with Amalia Ivanovna, especially over the name.
Reveals how deeply ingrained class and identity were, even amidst poverty. How easily tensions could explode.
She even laughs at Amalia Ivanovna's broken German. A final, desperate assertion of superiority in her complete downfall.
And that scene of her forcing her children to perform in the street, instructing them, Lida, tene vudrat, Kolya, you'll dance again, is just devastating.
It is a grotesque parody of performance, a desperate plea for recognition, a public spectacle of raw, unforgiving poverty and illness.
Her death, following from her consumption, made worse by her injuries, gashed, crushed, and fractured ribs, that cruel kick from the horse's hoof, it's a brutal public end.
To a life marked by unimaginable suffering, that small, fleeting act of kindness from the official, who gives her the green 3-ruble note out of genuine sympathy.
It stands out starkly against the overwhelming despair,
emphasizing the devastating impact of societal neglect and the human capacity for both fierce pride and profound delusion when facing insurmountable hardship. Her death isn't just the end of a character, it's Dostoevsky's indictment of a society that allows this to happen.
Moving from Katerina Ivanovna's tragic end, we encounter another enigmatic figure. His cynicism offers a stark contrast to Raskolnikov's tormented self-reflection, Svidrigailov.
Svidrigailov, Dunya's former tormentor.
He reappears, openly discussing seeing ghosts. His serf Filka Marfa Petrovna
Offers these cynical observations on Russian character, broad in their ideas, exceedingly disposed to the fantastic, the chaotic, lacking sacred traditions.
reveals Marfa Petrovna left Dunya 3,000 rubles in her will. Later, with a young fiancé, visits her parents at midnight in the rain to give her 15,000 rubles.
Saying he must leave Petersburg for important affairs.
His final night involves heavy drinking, strange dreams, one of a 5-year-old girl in a damp, chilly room,
And a cold, detached preparation for suicide. Shooting himself in the street in front of an official witness. What is really going on with this man, this embodiment of moral emptiness?
Svidrigailov serves as this chilling nihilistic foil to Raskolnikov, a vision of what Raskolnikov could become if he fully embraced his amoral theory without the internal torment.
His visions of ghosts aren't just supernatural, they're potent manifestations of his profound, unaddressed guilt, especially regarding Filka and Marfa Petrovna, whose deaths he likely hastened.
His philosophical musings on the broad but chaotic Russian character.
They reflect his own profound moral emptiness, his lack of an internal compass, a critique of intellect unbound by traditional values. He views human behavior through a lens of unbridled self-interest, devoid of genuine remorse.
A stark contrast to Raskolnikov's intense internal struggle for meaning.
His generous financial gifts to Dunya and his young betrothed, they're less about altruism.
And more about settling accounts, clearing his conscience transactionally, or demonstrating his arbitrary power.
Probably all of the above. Rather than true benevolence, he claims Dunya is morbidly chaste. Her flashing eyes haunted my dreams. He even admits, I really began to think that I might become epileptic from his obsession. Hints at a deeply disturbed psyche beneath the calm exterior.
And his suicide is so cold, so detached, almost pragmatic in its despair. Not dramatic, just a final, cynical statement.
Exactly, a final rational act of despair. Meticulously planned, yet entirely lacking grandiosity or melodrama. It reflects his ultimate belief that life holds no inherent meaning or redemption, just appetites and boredom.
Choosing to end it in front of an official witness. Almost a final, ironic gesture.
A recognition of an absurdity he no longer wants to participate in. His final hours, that close and tiny room, smelling of mice and leather, blowing out the candle, his final dream of the 5-year-old girl.
Underscore a deep-seated, unresolved past, and absolute moral relativism. That dream of the abused little girl, forced into degradation.
A powerful symbol of his own sins. Perhaps the last flicker of conscience, though he dismisses it. Svidrigailov embodies the devastating consequences of a life lived without an internal compass, without belief in a higher purpose.
A powerful, chilling counterpoint to Raskolnikov's struggle, a path Raskolnikov ultimately recoiled from, and that leads us finally to Raskolnikov's ultimate tumultuous confession. This isn't a simple act of repentance, is it?
Far from it. He experiences immense internal struggle about confessing to Sonia, questioning his true motivations.
Debating if it was to be a Napoleon or simply to find out then and quickly whether I was a louse like everybody else or a man.
He insists, it was not the money I wanted, Sonia, when I did it, but something else.
He finally confesses to Sonia that he killed Lizaveta, leading to her incredible pledge.
No, never, nowhere. I will follow you. I will follow you everywhere.
Later, Raskolnikov, seemingly guided by fate, confesses to the explosive lieutenant, Ilya Petrovich, at the police station. It's an agonizing, messy path to a sort of self-reckoning.
But maybe not yet a full spiritual rebirth. This confession is far from a clear act of repentance or a plea for absolution.
It's more a tormented attempt to find meaning in his monstrous actions and resolve the unbearable psychological burden.
Exactly. His fervent denial of money is the motive, his insistence on that deeper existential something else, needing to prove he wasn't a louse but a man, it highlights his enduring intellectual pride, even at his lowest moment.
He grapples fiercely with the validity of his theory, whether his failure to pull it off without emotional fallout makes him a louse after all.
His torment isn't primarily moral guilt initially. It's profound intellectual frustration that his theory failed, that he failed to be the extraordinary man.
And Sonia's reaction to his confession is truly remarkable. It's where the narrative offers that glimmer of hope.
It is. Her initial terror transforms into that heart-rending wail, then an offer of unconditional love, unwavering support. I will follow you everywhere.
This is the first real glimmer of external grace he receives, a stark contrast to his self-imposed isolation, his self-inflicted torment.
Her reading of the story of Lazarus, her voice cold and trembling with ecstasy, is deeply symbolic. A powerful biblical allusion foreshadowing Raskolnikov's potential spiritual resurrection.
Though he himself is far from embracing it, he tells her explicitly, if I'd simply killed because I was hungry, I should be happy now. You must believe that.
And what would it matter to you if I were to confess that I did wrong? What do you gain by such a stupid triumph over me?
Highlighting his continuing intellectual pride. His struggle to accept a moral failing, not just an intellectual one, even as he seeks solace. Still sees it as a logical miscalculation, not a profound sin. He even has that angry outburst to Dunya right before his final confession, crying, "Crime! What crime? That I kill a vile, noxious insect, was that a crime? I am not thinking of it, and I am not thinking of expiating it."
A final defiant act of intellectual justification.
Yeah,
refusing to accept the moral weight.
That's a critical detail. Underscores his enduring resistance to genuine moral remorse right up to the last moment.
His eventual decision to confess to Ilya Petrovich, the explosive lieutenant, the less insightful, more conventional cop, rather than the psychologically probing Porfiry, is also telling.
Suggests an almost nihilistic acceptance of fate, viewing it as a disgrace, a cowardice to succumb, rather than a true moral reckoning.
Perhaps. He even sees his act as a simple blunder, a miscalculation in his grand theory. This whole journey just lays bare the complex psychology of confession.
The profound distinction between intellectual justification and moral guilt.
And the transformative power of empathy, of shared suffering,
Right.
particularly through Sonya's unwavering, unconditional love, even if Raskolnikov isn't yet ready to fully embrace its redemptive potential. He confesses, but the path to true repentance remains long and arduous. #outro.
Wow. We've just delved deep into the opening chapters, really the core of Crime and Punishment, tracing Raskolnikov's agonizing journey
From brilliant, impoverished student with a radical theory,
to a murderer grappling with the immediate visceral aftermath. We've seen how the oppressive, almost weaponized atmosphere of St. Petersburg,
Dostoevsky's own harrowing experiences.
the tragic fates of Marmeladov and Katerina Ivanovna, the unwavering loyalty and moral courage of Razumihin and Dunya,
The insidious manipulation of Luzhin, the chilling nihilism of Friedrich,
and the profound compassion of Sonia, all converge to shape his destiny, challenge his twisted philosophy.
What Dostoevsky lays bare in these chapters, it's not just a crime story. It's a profound exploration of human suffering, the seductive, destructive dangers of intellectual pride.
And the often unforeseen paths to consequence and maybe just a glimmer of redemption.
We've witnessed how abstract theory clashes violently with brutal reality, how external pressure fuels internal torment.
And how the simplest acts of love or cruelty can echo with immense life-altering power. It's a testament to the human condition, raw and unflinching.
Forcing us to examine the very foundations of our own moral compass.
And here's a provocative thought to leave you with, something to mull over long after this deep dive concludes. Raskolnikov, even as he turns himself in, faces penal servitude, he still struggles to define his act as a moral crime. He sees it, as he says, as a simple blunder, a failure of will.
Questions why he should humble myself before people and whimper at every word that I am a criminal.
This enduring resistance to genuine remorse, this intellectual stubbornness that persists even as he accepts punishment, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Can a person truly be renewed, truly find a new unknown life, as the novel's ending hints, if they don't first truly believe they've committed an unpardonable wrong?
Or is this very intellectual pride, this inability to submit to moral truth, itself the ultimate punishment, hindering any true inner peace, any genuine spiritual rebirth?
Something to think about, definitely, as you continue your own deep dive into this incredible, timeless work.